Hey y'all, welcome back to Interbanks Legal Services. I'm Michelle Loveys Dozier. I work with who you're used to seeing, Sarah Beth Withers. As a friendly reminder, we are a nonprofit law firm located in Little Washington, North Carolina, right on the Pamlico. Today, I have with me my good friend David Omer of Omer Law up in Raleigh. Hey, David.
Hey, Michelle. Hey, everybody. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks so much for joining us. We're here talking today a little bit about unemployment in the time of COVID. It's a question we're getting a lot in our practice, but one that we don't touch on a lot. So I thought we would chat with our friend David here, and who is the principal and founding attorney of Omer Law, and who has a lot of experience working in this realm. David, tell us a little bit about your firm.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michelle. So my firm is relatively new. We opened our doors officially on October 1st of 2019. So we're not even at that 1 year mark yet. Still a very young firm, but very happy to be here. Really enjoy practicing out on my own. Really, most of where we live is kind of the civil litigation realm. A lot of that is personal injury. A lot of that is construction defects. A whole lot of that is HOA work. But we do see a lot of employment issues come in, especially over the last few months,
Mm.
as COVID has kind of become a thing, as 2020 has continued to get weirder and weirder. We've gotten a lot of questions about this kind of realm. So it's something that we're constantly thinking about, we're constantly talking about, and I'm very happy to kind of get into that realm here today.
Yeah, 2020 certainly is weird. It's hard to believe it's only been a what, like 100, a little over 100 days, 120 days so far that
Yeah,
we're in this new space.
yeah,
And there's been a lot of changes, especially to people's ability to access benefits. And by benefits, I mean unemployment benefits. Back in March, Governor Cooper issued an executive order that included expanding access to unemployment. And we've all also heard from the federal level that there's been expanded access there too. In North Carolina specifically, what are the benefits that are available to folks who have been told, sorry, we need to shut our doors to protect you and us from this pandemic?
absolutely. So in getting into that, traditionally there are uh, four basic requirements that an applicant would need to meet in order to become eligible for unemployment benefits. And the first one is that the applicant has become unemployed by no fault of his or her own. So that means that you've been let go, you didn't do anything wrong. It was just either a layover or moving budgets around, something to that effect, where you've become unemployed by no fault of your own. The second requirement is that the employee earned sufficient wages at the previous job in order to establish a claim. So that's a fairly low bar, but there is a standard where there have to be sufficient wages there before you were let go in order to establish a claim. Number three, the applicant has to be physically fit, willing, and actively seeking work. So you have to be looking for a job. You can't just be sitting around collecting check. You have to be willing and able to work, and you have to be looking for a new job. And then number four, the applicant has to be registered to work with the appropriate entity, which in North Carolina is called NC Works Online. This is an online platform, very easy to create an account. And that is the final fourth eligibility requirement. And then finally, there also has to be a 1 week waiting period between applying and receiving benefits.
Okay.
So you mentioned the executive order that Governor Cooper signed on March 17th of this year. That's actually one of three executive orders at this point that have been
Okay.
kind of put in place that affect and change the process for applying for benefits. The first one that you mentioned was Executive Order 118. And that was the widest ranging executive order that we've seen so far in North Carolina, but it did a couple of things. Number one, Executive Order 118 eliminated that traditional 1 week waiting period. So we're typically, again, you've got this 1 week waiting period between where you apply and you start to receive benefits. That's no longer the case. We don't have that 1 week kind of buffer zone anymore. Number two, this first requirement, the requirement of having become unemployed by no fault of the applicant's own, has been broadened significantly. At this point in time, an employee or a former employee can become eligible for benefits not only where they've become unemployed, but also where they have had their hours cut or reduced, um, whether because they're unable to work due to a medical condition or because of a direct quarantine order. So now you've not only got the unemployment, you've also got a reduction in hours that will entitle the applicant to become eligible for unemployment benefits. And then finally, we've got a significant loosening of the requirement of being willing and actively seeking work. So again, in a situation where you've got somebody who might have a medical condition, a higher susceptibility to something like COVID-19, even if that person is not actively seeking work because of their susceptibility to COVID, they can still become eligible for benefits. So
Now,
sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead, David. I didn't
No,
mean to cut you off.
Sure. No. So that was Executive Order 118. That was March 17th. That was again the broadest scope, the biggest change that we've seen to the traditional process.
And has it narrowed since, or has
It
it
has.
continued?
It's really it's been broadened more on two separate occasions since then with two separate executive orders. It hasn't been broadened as much, but it has been broadened. So on April 9th, Governor Cooper signed into effect Executive Order 131. And what this does is it loosens the requirements on both DES, the unemployment office here in North Carolina, as well as employers in order to expedite the way that claims are processed. So what it does is it really gets a lot of the bureaucratic red tape out of the way on the other side of things,
Okay.
kind of the inner workings of the machine that allows them to kind of process this mountain of claims, because there is a mountain of claims, more quickly. And then finally, on April 20th, Governor Cooper signed Executive Order 134 into effect. And what that means is that really there are two things that it changes in particular. Number one, this willing and actively seeking work requirement is broadened even more, to the effect that we've got unemployed folks, we've got folks who have had their hours cut, and then we've also got it broadened on April 20th to include employees who have been furloughed. So this is not a situation where somebody's lost their job. They haven't had their hours cut. They've actually had their hours eliminated, but on a temporary basis while they're furloughed.
Okay.
Now, finally, EO 134 is going to require employers who have furloughed employees to submit claims on the employee's behalf.
Oh, okay.
That puts the onus on the employer rather than the employee to make sure that the employees who have been furloughed are being taken care of.
Okay. So basically, it's all of the traditional eligibility requirements plus the broadening to help make sure folks who have either been furloughed or have been told we're quarantining are protected and have access to benefits. Now, what I also heard you say is that there's a website which we'll link below, so that way y'all can see what the website looks like, how to set up an account. It's pretty intuitive. Everything nowadays is web-based, so we'll make sure to link that below. What if someone is denied benefits for some reason? What are their appeals processes, and why would somebody be denied?
So that's a great question. Nowadays, denials always happen. That's a fact of life. Nowadays, by far, the majority of the denials that we're seeing are because those benefits have been exhausted. So when that happens, the unemployment benefits are not permanent. There's a specific time frame that they're good for. For instance, at the state level, you're going to see unemployment benefits for anywhere from 12 all the way up to 20 weeks. So once that 20 weeks is up, technically those unemployment benefits are exhausted. And if you apply again, you're probably going to get denied for that reason. So in a situation where your benefits are being exhausted, when you go to apply, you get the denial. There are now two kind of separate second and third levels of benefits that you can apply for. And the first one is kind of a federal program that's being applied at the state level, which is called the Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation Program, or what we call the PEUC. This should be applied for first once your state level unemployment benefits are exhausted. This is going to be a 13-week extension that's available from April 4th of this year all the way through the end of 2020. So this is going to be up to $350 per week for up to 13 weeks. Once we hit July 25th, that can go up to $600 per week. So we're going to see that go up here in about the next month. Now, once you hit that 13-week threshold, your PEUC benefits are going to be exhausted. At that point, you're going to need to apply for the federal pandemic unemployment assistance program.
Okay.
So both of these are federal. PEUC is going to be administered by states. PUA is going to be administered directly by the federal government. So PUA at the federal level can only be applied for once you've determined that you're ineligible for state benefits and you've determined that PEUC is completely exhausted. So you've got the 12 to 20 weeks at the state level. You've got 13 weeks at the PEUC level. Once you get past that time frame, if you're still unemployed, you still need those benefits. That's at the point where you can go in and apply for PUA. So this is going to be, again, up to $350 per week for up to 39 weeks. So we've got a really broad time frame there. So that can tide you over for a long time. Again, once we hit July 25th, as with PEUC, that $350 cap is going to be increased up to $600.
Okay, so basically, folks at this point have their steps to take would be to go to local here in North Carolina, NC Works, set up their account, apply for their state benefits, and go through that process as long as they meet the criteria of not having been laid off for any fault of their own, being able-bodied, looking for work, and having worked enough to be able to earn that unemployment benefit, right? Okay. And then once they meet that criteria, they apply for state benefits. And once those run out at their 20-ish week mark, then there are two federal programs that piggyback on state to help folks get through this pandemic. And our governor has said, hey, in addition to those 4 requirements, if you're furloughed or quarantined due to this wacky 2020 year, we're going to make sure you're taken care of in that way as well. And we're not going to make it as difficult for you to apply for benefits. Do I have that kind of?
That is a much more succinct way to
I love
restate
I just
what
want
I
to
just said. Yeah.
let folks know. No, and so we're going to link everything for the NC Works website into our comments below. We're also going to link David's law firm information. So if you do have further questions or you have a denial that you need to figure out how to work with, give David a call. But the big question we get is things are starting to open up. And I don't know about you, but I feel a little bit wonky going out into public lately. I feel like I've been in my little cocoon of my house with my fur babies, and I don't want to go out in public anymore. um, and there are folks who are being told, no, you got to come back to work, but they're at that risk category for either health reasons, age. So do folks who are being told to come back to work, what are their rights if they're still afraid or fearful for health reasons to come in?
Mm-hmm. So I think that the answer to that question is going to depend on a couple of things. Where you have a situation where you have a very legitimate fear of being exposed, where somebody is nervous to go back to work, they're worried, they're scared. If that's the only real characteristic that's preventing somebody from going back to work, then the answer is probably that there's not really a lot that you can do. If it's just a kind of a generalized fear of going back, getting exposed to COVID. If, on the other hand, you have a medical condition, some kind of susceptibility, some kind of, let's say, a respiratory problem, where going back, getting exposed to COVID could have disastrous ramifications for your health. In that type of situation, you're still going to be able to, be eligible under these unemployment benefit programs. However, you're probably going to need some documentation from a medical provider kind of saying, okay, David has this problem. David getting COVID could be disastrous for his health. It could be life-threatening. And as a result, we're instructing David not to return to work at this time.
So similar to asking for reasonable accommodations as you would in any other employment situation.
That's absolutely correct.
It's just having a conversation, have a conversation with your employer, say, listen, I'm working with my doctor. What documentation do you need? And asking for that reasonable accommodation.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, David, it's been so great to see your face and catch up with you again.
You too.
And thank you so much for all of this information. Again, y'all, we'll link David's firm information. He's got a great blog post that will also walk you through the unemployment benefits piece. That'll be linked down here, as will the unemployment NC Works information. And as always, if you have questions or concerns, you are welcome to contact Interbanks Legal Services. We're located in Little Washington, North Carolina, and our number is 252-495-0585. Thanks, y'all, and we will see you next time. Thanks so much, David.
Thank you.